you just haven't seen the traction for the guy that was supposed to be the guy.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' 2024 presidential campaign is not doing very well. In fact, it's now gotten to the point where there is a major shakeup just a couple of months into his campaign. And on top of that, Fox News, which was largely pushing DeSantis at the beginning of all of this, is now appearing to be willing to move on very quickly from DeSantis. And near the end of this video, I'm going to get to a clip from Fox News this morning with a potential new candidate that they want to see in the race. And I don't know. I'm curious what you think of who they may potentially be latching on to. But let's start here with this news. Actually, before I get to the news, this is the quick timeline here of the campaign up to this point. Just a few headlines to run through. So on May 25th, he announced his presidential bid with Elon Musk. It was actually, I believe, on the 24th, but this article was updated the day after. So 24th, he announced his run for president. Then on July 15th, already a shakeup with a dozen staffers getting fired. Then yesterday, this came out in CNN, DeSantis campaign pitches donors on leaner insurgent campaign to beat Trump, which of course came right before the news today that he is letting go more than 1/3 of his campaign staff. I'm going to get to what the campaign is saying, as, you know, the way these, whether it's a corporation, whether it's a campaign, the way they play off these sorts of moves is always makes me laugh. But before I get there, I do want to give you just a quick some quick details here. Then I'll get to the first Fox News reaction to this news. So as Politico writes, the cuts, which were confirmed by advisors, will amount to a total of 38 jobs shed across an array of departments. They will include the roughly 10 event planning positions that were announced several weeks ago, in addition to the recent departures of two senior DeSantis campaign advisors, Dave Abrams and Tucker Obenshain. Now let me get to the Fox News reaction here. This is Brett Baier and John Roberts, and they are not even trying to clean this up. They are very raw here on their thoughts on the DeSantis campaign, and themselves, it sounds like they are just waiting for this thing to end.
You know, when you take a look at governors and their history here, you know, this sense of inevitability that's built around them. Jeb Bush, we remember him. We talked about Tim Pawlenty. Scott Walker. Could Ron DeSantis be the latest in that group?
He's desperately trying not to be. But this is a big sign. 1/3 of your campaign staff. We haven't even gotten to August as of yet. There were real concerns by big donors, we were told, of the spending, the burn rate. And they were spending a lot of money, but not getting a lot of bang for their buck. He is trailing in every poll by 20, 30, sometimes 40 points, depending on the poll, depending on the state. And you just haven't seen the traction for the guy that was supposed to be the guy.
As DeSantis says, he's going to hold smaller scale events in earlier states and then engage more with the mainstream media, which would dovetail right into the idea that you've got this interview with him coming up Monday in New Hampshire. But that's an awful lot of trouble for a campaign that's barely 2 months old.
It is. I mean, remember, we haven't made it to the first debate, which is August 23rd in Milwaukee.
Which he will qualify for.
He will, and he has talked about being there on the stage. I do think this is setting up to figure out who will be the person who goes up against the former president. Right now, if you look at every poll, if you look at the positioning, if you look at what has happened after every indictment, after every major legal maneuver, the former president's numbers have only gone up.
So I'm going to get to how the DeSantis campaign is trying to play this off, and also I'll get to a different Fox News clip where they're discussing who they want to see run. First, though, you may be wondering, why is there all of this doom and gloom around the DeSantis campaign when he is clearly in second still in polling? This gets down to what was mentioned there by Brett Baier, the burn rate, the spending, the amount of money they have raised, and the complete lack of results. So if you take a look at polling right now, this is from 538. They've taken all the polls and weighed them based on how accurate that polling has been in the past. So out of all polling averages, I tend to think that they're the most accurate. But you see here, DeSantis announced on May 24th. See if we could find that here. And, there was a little bump after he announced when he was already way down before he even officially announced. But then there's not much. And now it's just gone off completely. So DeSantis, of course, in second place there at 18.6% now to Trump at 51.9%. DeSantis was so much closer to Trump when he hadn't officially announced his run. So all of this money being poured in by these big donors, they want to see some results from DeSantis, and they have not seen those results. So this is why the DeSantis campaign is, right now in free fall, and why there is all of this talk around can he even last to, the first voting state? Because when you have this much money poured into your campaign and so little results, it's unlikely you're going to have donors want to continue supporting you until they see some changes. Now, this is how the DeSantis campaign is playing off these firings. This is a quote from their campaign. Following a top-to-bottom review of our organization, we have taken additional aggressive steps to streamline operations and put Ron DeSantis in the strongest position to win this primary and defeat Joe Biden. Notice, first of all, of course, yes, streamlining operations. Doing more with less. This is pure corporate speak. And they don't even mention Donald Trump, who's the biggest obstacle here, putting them in a position to win this primary against who? They don't even want to mention Trump because he is so clearly in the lead above everybody else in the race. So instead they, focus on Biden as if that is their goal, when the real problem for DeSantis right now is defeating Trump. They go on to write, Governor DeSantis is going to lead the great American comeback. So now they're treating him as the underdog, despite all the free media DeSantis has got up to this point. And we're ready to hit the ground running as we head into an important month of the campaign. Okay. They are flailing. So DeSantis not doing very well at all. And part of the firings, or this may be a separate firing, but because they were firing anyways, but I'm not sure if you caught this. Yesterday, the DeSantis team released this video with a symbol that I'm not sure I can read this on YouTube, but you understand here. So they released a video with this symbol that has ties to that group. Now, this apparently was done by one individual in the campaign and was posted to a DeSantis supporting account, not the actual official campaign account, but it was retweeted by this individual that worked in the campaign, and they fired that guy. Look, it's not surprising at all that you had one of these people in the DeSantis campaign. Not at all surprising. The only, I guess, maybe surprising part is that he was so clear about it, so public about it, because the other ones are, I guess, able to hide it a little better. But when you're this clear with who you are, it's going to be tough for the DeSantis campaign to try and play this off. So they got rid of this individual. But let me now get to the Fox and Friends clip from this morning. I don't want to show you the preview because it spoils who they're talking about. But you may not even know who this person is. But this is the guy you're going to see. They're going to talk about DeSantis, and then they're going to get to Steve Doocy here of Fox and Friends is going to get to who he wants to see run in this primary.
We were telling people yesterday about how over the weekend out in Deer Valley at the Stein Eriksen Lodge, all of the big mega donors for Ron DeSantis got together, and they're trying to tweak the campaign because he's kind of stalled out in the polls. Well, now there's a story out about, and we touched on this briefly a little while ago, about how Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, has a record high approval rating in the Commonwealth of Virginia. A lot of people like what he's doing out there. And so ultimately, you look at a Republican governor in a purple state for the most part, and you're thinking, I wonder if that guy could possibly run for president. Doesn't have to get in right now. Nobody's in a hurry. What about later?
Look at how antsy Fox News is to move on from Ron DeSantis. Right there, Steve Doocy very quickly moves on from the DeSantis news to How about Glenn Youngkin? Huh? Huh? Yes, Glenn Youngkin. Look, if Glenn Youngkin was automatically put into the general election against Joe Biden, I actually think there possibly could be a shot there not because he's a good politician, but because of or I should say, because he is a good politician, but not good politics. He is the kinder version of Trump. He, in terms of policy, no different than Donald Trump. But he, unlike DeSantis, who is really playing up the online far-right aspect of the Republican base, Glenn Youngkin is better at hiding that and pretending he's a nice guy. So there have been pieces on Glenn Youngkin. The Economist here has a piece on how Glenn Youngkin is a kinder, gentler Trumpist. Virginia governor has a unique approach to adapting Donald Trump's politics. So it's just putting a smiling face on Trump, which, initially that's what a lot of people saw DeSantis being, but then the DeSantis campaign and DeSantis himself focusing heavily on hatred, heavily on generating these culture war issues out of nothing. Meanwhile, Glenn Youngkin, same politics as both of them, but does so with a kind demeanor, which has a potential to fool a lot of people. So other things worth mentioning here about him. He's a former private equity executive, so very kind to big Republican donors. They'll be happy about that. And also, he is 6'7", which, when it comes to presidents, height apparently matters. That doesn't hurt him either. So in terms of just pure appearances and his connections to large donors, he would be a good general election candidate. But is Glenn Youngkin really going to win a Republican primary? This guy here? No. I mean, crazier things have happened, but the current state of the Republican Party, why would the base vote for a nice guy? I don't mean he's a nice guy, but in terms of the image he puts forward, they've shown they don't want that. They want Trump. They want a right-wing comedian. They want somebody who is crazy, outlandish, says ridiculous things. They don't want your standard smiling-face politician. So while someone like Steve Doocy, I'm sure, loves Glenn Youngkin, when it comes to the actual Republican Party voters, I don't think so. But I don't know. What do you think? Who do you think can replace DeSantis in second place before Trump goes on to clearly win this primary, unless he is, for some reason, legally unable or physically unable to actually win?